Welcome back to the Birdhouse Dynasty show. And tonight we're going to do a live recap of the week 7 events and happenings. So let's get right to it. Yes, we are going to fire it off with the Sunday night game and Mr. Russell Wilson. Oh, gee. Boy, I didn't expect to be talking about Mr. Unlimited tonight. Wow. I can't believe it. We had 264 yards, 2 touchdowns, another touchdown added on the ground for Wilson. Whew, he made George Pickens looking good out there. Boy. Then Najee Harris just jammed himself into the end zone there at the end. Didn't even need to, but hey, might as well rub it in when you can, right? So Najee got over 100 yards. The whole Steelers offense just went nuts. Even Van Jefferson got in the end zone. Man, the Steelers just put the hurt on the New York Jets and the newly acquired Davante Adams. Aaron Rodgers, well, it was not Mr. Rodgers' neighborhood this evening. 24-39 for Rodgers, 278, a touchdown, and 2 picks. We have Breece Hall getting into the end zone, just 38 yards on the ground, but he did add 103 yards on 6 catches through the air. Davante Adams, not exactly the start he was looking for. 9 targets, just 3 catches, 30 yards. Garrett Wilson, 5 for 61 on 9 targets as well. Alan Lazard added 4 for 58. But it was all Pittsburgh tonight in the Steel Town. And Russell Wilson, is he back on the map? Oof. I don't know, but I just traded for him in a best ball league, so I don't mind the production tonight. But man, Jaylen Warren added 12 carries for 44 yards. As I mentioned, George Pickens, 9 targets, 5 for 111. Just Wilson was heaving that deep ball nice and pretty and high. Man, it took me back about 10 years with Wilson tonight. Darnell Washington added 4 catches for 36 yards. Pat Freiermuth even had 2 for 51. So you can see all around, the one thing I was surprised in was the lack of dump offs. But when the deep ball is working for us, I guess, hey, what are you going to do, right? Well, thanks for joining me tonight. Just be sure to hit the like and subscribe. Check me out on my Patreon, Birdhouse Dynasty Show patreon.com/Birdhouse Dynasty Show. Or if you have any questions about your lineups, rosters, trades, whatever, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee/Birdhouse Dynasty Show. Let's get into some of the earlier action tonight. Why don't we get right into the big one in San Francisco that had the Chiefs traveling to see the Niners, and unfortunately for this one, it was ugly. We'll get you started off with the bad news about Brandon Ayuk. He was injured bad. So his knee bent the wrong way when one of the defenders dove in to make a tackle. Nothing malicious out there, but it just didn't look good. And so looks like Brandon Ayuk may be done for the year. Test results, I'm sure, will come out tomorrow, but who knows with the Niners? I mean, can anybody believe what the Niners put out on their injury report? I mean, let's go back to week 1, where on Friday, Christian McCaffrey was questionable to play. And he said that if it was a playoff game, he would play. Well, we're in week 7, and he still hasn't played. All right. Meanwhile, Jordan Mason mentioned right after the game that he knew he was starting on Friday. So what's up there, NFL? I mean, then you get to today. And it wasn't just me who had Deebo Samuel in their lineup. There was probably at least 1 million people out there that probably had Deebo Samuel in their lineup. And so I bet they're a little frustrated as well, because Deebo Samuel ended up with exactly 0 catches on 0 targets. He played a couple of snaps, couldn't do anything. The sickness didn't come out until just before game time. I mean, come on, NFL. You got to do something. Find these guys a draft pick. Don't just find them some money, because the money just grows on trees in the NFL. Find them where it hurts. Take away a draft pick or 2 for this bullshit that they're trying to pull with Shanahan and the Niners and their injury reports, because it simply is not fair to us, or, I mean, the other team that they're playing against, honestly, is more important than us, really. So I just want to see the NFL take some action on these bastards, because it's gone on too long now. But back to the game, right? Because there was still a game that went on, even though Deebo didn't play and Ayuk got injured. Well, Brock Purdy tried to get things rolling for the Niners, just 17 of 31. No touchdowns, 212 yards, and 3 interceptions. So a rough day at the office for Purdy. Jordan Mason added 58 yards on the ground. George Kittle stepped up a little bit there. Again, there was no touchdown passes, but he did have 6 for 92 today. But outside of that, Ricky Pearsall trying to step up. He had 3 for 21. Brandon Ayuk, before he left with the injury, had 2 catches for 23 yards. Over to the Chiefs, who honestly did what they had to do. Kareem Hunt, 22 of 78 and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Mahomes added 1 on the ground. He got 39 yards and a touchdown. McCole Hardman got into the end zone. He had 2 carries for 38 yards and a touchdown. And so Mahomes just quietly efficient through the air today. Nothing spectacular, 154 yards. He had no touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So Niners, Chiefs, no touchdowns, 5 interception passes. Crazy, crazy, crazy. I tell you, crazy. And so that meant that not much for the receivers there from Kansas City. Noah Gray led the way for the Chiefs, 4 for 66. I didn't mind that. I had to plug him in one of my lineups. Xavier Worthy just 3 for 19. Travis Kelce with 5 targets, 4 catches for 17 yards. I mean, man, just think about what could have been if we had Rashee Rice and even Juju Smith-Schuster and Deebo Samuel and a full game of Ayuk. And we could really have, Christian McCaffrey and Isaiah Pacheco. But man, the injuries this year. So what does this mean for the Chiefs going forward? Well, I don't know how bad Juju's injury really was, but, expect him to be back next week, and hopefully that helps their aerial attack. As for the Niners, I would expect Deebo to be back next week. So not all is bad for Purdy. And Christian McCaffrey's 21-day practice window did open up. So hopefully the Niners don't lose back-to-back games here before they could probably see McCaffrey I would guess he's not going to play next week either. So maybe week 9, but isn't that their bye week? Let me check quick. The Niners have, yes, they play Dallas next week on Sunday night, and then they have their bye, and then they are at Tampa in 3 weeks. So my best guess is McCaffrey will be back against Tampa. So they only have one more game before that. So I was just getting worried that maybe they'd lose too many and they just shut McCaffrey down. But I think only one more loss if they lose to the Cowboys somehow next week. I think they'll want to bring McCaffrey back after their bye. All right. So ugly game with the injuries there. All right. Speaking of ugly, let's roll through this one. That had Las Vegas, the Raiders traveling to SoFi and taking on the Rams. Yuck. This one was just gross. Aiden O'Connell got the start for the Raiders. He didn't last long. Gardner Minshew took over and threw 3 picks. Alexander Madison did get 92 yards on the ground for the Raiders. And, of course, Brock Bowers led the way, 14 targets, 10 catches for 93 yards. So definitely didn't have any trouble with any kind of double teams or any kind of monster, coverage issues there. But nonetheless, the Raiders still looked putrid today. The Rams, on the other hand, they got a defensive touchdown. Kyron Williams got into the end zone twice here. And so let's bring up old Kyron here. Kyron proving me wrong, definitely in my preseason predictions. Didn't get a catch today. But again, there's 2 touchdowns, 76 yards on the ground. Matthew Stafford had a quiet and efficient 154 yards through the air, did throw 1 interception. The Rams receiver core still without Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Tyler Johnson led the way, 7 targets, 4 catches, 57 yards. Tutu Atwell, 9 targets, 6 catches, 51 yards. And Colby Parkinson added 2 grabs for 32 yards. But expect Cooper Kupp to be back next week. The Rams take on the Minnesota Vikings in LA. So actually that's the Thursday night ball game. So we'll see if Kupp can make it back. He was close. He was very questionable, sort of a game time decision. It was kind of released earlier on Sunday that he would be out. So we'll see on Thursday night if he'll be ready as well. Kind of a quick turnaround there for the Rams. Puka, I wouldn't expect to be back for a couple more weeks yet. Well, maybe with the long, we'll see. Week 8, we'll see for week 9 because they'll have 10 more days off after their Thursday night game hosting the Vikings. All right, that would definitely help out Matthew Stafford because his numbers. I mean, I know he wants to throw the ball, but so does McVay. But man, when you got nobody to throw to, I don't blame him for just handing it off to Kyron, especially when you're just playing the Raiders. Now, something's going to have to be different probably this next game against the Vikings, who have a stout run defense, or at least had one. We'll get into that a little bit later. But before that, we're going to talk about the other late game on the Sunday slate. And this one had an unfortunate injury, and that would be to everybody's rookie darling this year, and that's Jaden Daniels. Daniels took a hit and went out with a rib injury in the first half and did not return. So that got Marcus Mariota some snaps. Didn't do too bad if he has to play next week. 205 yards and 2 touchdowns, no picks through the air for Mariota. Daniels, just a couple pass attempts, completing them for 6 yards before he had to leave. Did get a 46-yard rush before he got knocked out, so ended with 50 yards rushing on the ground. So he still got a few points for his for those owners. But yeah, very unfortunate. Something to monitor all week. I don't know that it's something where he'll be declared out very early in the week, but I could see him getting declared out by Friday, and they probably have to use another quarterback as a backup. I'm not sure who their third string is right now, but just monitor that. Expect Daniels to be out probably at least 1 to 2 weeks with this injury. In the meantime, they're going to have to rely on Brian Robinson, who did well today. 12 carries for 71 yards and a touchdown. He did not have a catch. Austin Eckler, just 17 yards on the ground and just 3 yards through the air. Ben Sinnott did get into the books. Took Marcus Mariota to get into the lineup, but it happened. 2 catches, 6 yards, and a touchdown for our boy Ben Sinnott, ready to turn it on. Now, that doesn't mean that Zach Ertz isn't falling off the map either. 4 catches for 40 yards and the other touchdown. So we know that they like to target the tight ends in that Cliff Perry offense. So keep that in mind. Ben Sinnott, though, seeing more snaps and got the opportunity to get in the end zone. Terry McLaurin still stayed strong, just under 100 yards, 6 targets, 6 catches, 98 yards on the day for McLaurin. Over to the Carolina Panthers, who just looked putrid today, putrid. And that would be with a capital P for the Red Rocket. Andy Dalton, 11 of 16, 93 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks. Got me negative points in a league I had to spot start him. Just atrocious. Not what I was looking for my 4th rounder that I gave up for him. Which, shout out to Mark. I was playing against him, and he totally won that one. I gave him a 4th rounder. I plugged in Andy Dalton against him, and Dalton got me negative points. So shout out to NLS 2K if you're watching out there. Good move. But hey, I'm sure I wasn't the only one having to plug Andy Dalton into the lineup. And so, you know, what do you expect when you're desperate? Stuff like that happens. All right. But on to the other players for the Panthers. Chuba Hubbard, took a while for him to get going. Got some garbage yards on the ground, 52 yards. Just a 3.1 yards per carry. Did get into the end zone in the second half when it really didn't matter. JT Sanders had over half of those completions went to JT Sanders. 6 targets, 6 catches, 61 yards. So I think JT Sanders now is a thing. He's been producing well lately. Deontay Johnson, just 1 grab for 17 yards. So he really struggled along with Dalton there today. Jalen Coker, just 1 grab for 10. So real ugly day. Really ugly day for the Carolina offense. They got to go back to the drawing board here. So maybe it just wasn't Bryce Young. All right. Next up, we've got one of the shootouts on the early slate, and that would be the Seattle Seahawks traveling to the Atlanta Falcons, and DK Metcalf took off today. looking spry. 4 catches for 99 yards and a touchdown. He caught that one just before the half on a seed from Geno Smith. Geno had a big day, 18 of 28, 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Kenneth Walker added 69 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Got a touchdown in the air as well on 24 yards. 2 catches there for Kenny. Let's see here. Noah Fant showing up, 4 catches for 65 yards. JSN only 3 catches for 9, and Tyler Lockett outscored JSN today, 4 for 45 for Lockett. The bad news in the fourth quarter for DK, he came down and hit his knee hard, and I think it was his other knee, though, that kind of whiplashed, and we're waiting for results on his knee. Did have to get carted off, but nowhere near as bad as Brandon Ayuk. I do expect DK to be able to play, but maybe he'll miss a week for some like a bone bruise. I don't know yet. It's hard to say. It could be a bone bruise, could be an MCL sprain, so maybe 1 to 2 weeks for DK. I don't know. He's a tough guy, but it's got to be healthy to get out there. So praying for you, DK. Love you. All right. Over to the Atlanta side of the ball, Kirk Cousins, not so great of an afternoon, 24 of 35, 232, touchdown and 2 picks. Bijan with a monster game, though, 21 for 103 on the ground and a touchdown. Tyler Algier, just 5 for 36 on the ground. Kyle Pitts showing up, leading the team in targets. What kind of world are we in here? Kyle Pitts, 9 targets, 7 catches, 65 yards. Drake London gets into the end zone on 6 for 63. And Darnell Mooney, 5 for 46. Bijan did add 3 grabs for 40 yards. All right. Next game we'll move on to is the Buffalo Bills hosting the Tennessee Titans. And so we'll jump over to the surprise of the day. Amari Cooper coming in to Buffalo, playing his first game, but it was Keon Coleman the big day here with the coverage rolling over to Amari. Keon Coleman saw 7 targets, 4 catches for 125 yards, had a 57-yarder in the mix there. And so Keon Coleman showing up with his biggest day of his rookie season so far. That helped Josh Allen get to 323 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. One of those touchdowns did go to the newly acquired Amari Cooper. He finished with 4 for 66. Khalil Shakir, 7 for 65. Dalton Kincaid, 3 for 52. So Allen had a good time spreading the ball around. There was like 10 guys who caught passes today. On the ground, Ray Davis actually led the way, 5 carries for 41 yards and a touchdown near the end to salt away the game. James Cook had a touchdown earlier in the game, just 32 yards on the ground, though. Did not have a catch, however. So kind of a rough day for James Cook, but he did get into the end zone to save his day. So, but yeah, I don't know if he got to 10 points in most leagues there. Over to Tennessee, and man, I don't know if it could have been any worse without Will Levis, but Mason Rudolph ain't it. All right, 25 of 40, 215. That average is just putrid. 1 touchdown, 1 pick. The touchdown went to Nick Westbrook-Ikeen, who had 2 catches for 10 yards on the day. Calvin Ridley, who bitched about his target share, well, not his target share, but just really getting some good looks. I mean, last week he had 8 targets, and I don't think any of them were within 10 feet of him. But today he got 9 targets, only caught 3 of them for 42 yards. So Calvin Ridley, barely rosterable in redraft leagues. dynasty leagues, I guess you're just kind of stuck holding the bag with him. But because I mean, not gonna be able to trade him for anything right now. D-Hop, another ugly day, one grab for -2 yards. I mean, this was just, I can't believe this is even an NFL offense. Chigo Konku, 4 for 50, not bad. And Tyler Boyd had 5 for 43. Tony Pollard did have an injury. Let me see the update. Yes, he had a concussion scare. So we'll have to monitor that for next week because Tajay Spears was already out. So then it would be in the lap of Julius Chestnut to be running the backfield there for the Titans. So watch that one closely. You might be able to steal a few cheap points with Julius Chestnut next week if you have to. I don't know how great the Titans' run game is, but, there's always second half garbage time, and so Chestnut could get touches that way. So very cheap points if you need them there, possibly. Pollard did finish with 61 yards on 16 carries, just 4 yards through the air. So, yeah, this Tennessee offense just is not one that is looking very good at all. Let's get on to another game that did have a few fireworks, and that would start with Deshaun Watson. And so the big news there is, well, just about what everybody was hoping for, even his owners, because I own Watson, but I also own Jameis Winston on those teams. And so now might get to see some Jameis Winston action here in Cleveland. So I hate to be excited about an injury because the poor guy did injure his Achilles. And so it's believed to be season ending at this point. We will find out more tomorrow on that from Watson. Watson actually, I mean, he wasn't looking terrible. He was 15 of 17 for just 128 yards, but no touchdowns, no picks, but 15 of 17 isn't all that bad considering Amari left town and all he was really throwing to was, Cedric Tillman. Really, David Njoku is the main guy now. And so let's get over to Mr. Njoku because he is worth talking about. That's right. Njoku. Did get David Njoku in that deal that I got Russell Wilson for on early Sunday morning, and so I couldn't be happier here. 14 targets, 10 catches for 76 yards, and the touchdown for Njoku. So he led the way in the target share for the Browns. Cedric Tillman might be a thing now. He got 12 targets, 8 for 81. Jerry Jeudy, who many thought where he was going to be the one that would get the most targets. Just 5 targets, 1 for 18. So not a great day there. Elijah Moore, 7 targets, 6 for 41. So it's interesting to see who's getting the targets now that Amari is out of town, but it's definitely looking good for Njoku. On the ground, we welcome the return finally of Nick Chubb. Just an amazing athlete, amazing that he's even playing anymore, honestly, after what happened to him last season. Good for Nick Chubb. It's good for football. Nick Chubb's a great football player, and regardless of his age, it's just good to have him back playing. Did only get 22 yards on the ground, but did fall into the end zone for 1 touchdown. So look for Nick Chubb to lead the backfield here as the Browns try to piece together an offense. So if Watson's out, DTR came in, hurt his finger. He was 11 for 24 for 82 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 picks. But then DTR hurt his finger, and so then Jameis Winston got to come in. He was only 5 of 11, but did throw a touchdown. I mean, fantasy-wise, we're all hoping Winston's the guy. And so monitor that all week. If Winston's available on your waivers, be sure to try and go out and scoop him up. Over to the Bengals side, Joe Burrow with a quietly efficient 15 of 25, 181 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Those touchdowns went to their big boys, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Higgins had 4 for 82, Chase 5 for 55. On the ground, Chase Brown is leading the way now, 15 for 44. Zach Moss only 6 carries for 7 yards. So big there in the carries department there for the Bengals. You had, 21 rush attempts between Brown and Zach Moss, and Chase Brown getting 15 of those. That's 5 for 7. That's what is that? About 70%. So that's a pretty good, be like 71%. That's a pretty good share of the backfield for Chase Brown. He also added 2 catches for 9 yards. Zach Moss had 3 catches for 33 yards. So somehow Zach Moss actually outdid him through the air. But going forward, you can look at probably like a 60-40 split here, leaning towards Chase Brown. So good news for those Chase Brown owners out there for sure. All right, let's hit up the next game. And that was what we were all hoping for to be a shootout. And I guess it wasn't quite that, but it was a tight one. And in Green Bay, they had the whiteout going. And Jordan Love still couldn't find his teammates all day, but he did enough to pull out the win, and that's what matters. He had a couple of picks again this week, but did have 3 touchdowns, 220 yards. One of those touchdowns, the first career touchdown reception, ironically, of Josh Jacobs' career. Somehow, I mean, he's a good pass catcher. Somehow he had never gotten into the end zone, though. Had 5 catches for 16 yards on the day and the 1 touchdown. He added 76 yards on the ground, so 92 total yards for Josh Jacobs. The other receivers there leading the way was Romeo Dobbs, 10 targets, 8 for 94. Dontavian Wicks, 6 targets, 3 catches, 48 yards, and a touchdown. And then Tucker Kraft with a great touchdown catch over the middle, 3 catches for 33 yards. And the score, Jaden Reed only 2 for 10, and Christian Watson just 1 grab for 9 yards. So that's a breakdown for the Packers receiving core. Over to the Texans, who took the lead with just under 2 minutes to go, but they couldn't quite stop the Packers from getting back into field goal range the other way and kicking the game winner. CJ Stroud, not a good day. 10 for 21, 86 yards. So he is missing Nico Collins. But Joe Mixon led the offense, 25 for 115 and 2 touchdowns. So they had to rely on the back of Joe Mixon today. Dalton Schultz led the receivers with 28 yards. Stephon Diggs, just 5 catches for 23. And Tank Dell taking the big donut on the day. So Dell had 4 targets, got nothing. Diggs had 7 targets. So that's 11 of the targets. Dalton Schultz had 2 targets. So that's how target share split up for the Texans, and just an ugly offensive performance through the air for them. Let's get through this other ugly game. I don't even know how anybody could watch this one. The Dolphins at the Colts. Whew. Do you guys really want to know? All right. Devon Achane had 77 yards on the ground. That was good. Mostert had 50 on the ground. Achane had 15 carries. Mostert had 11. So that's how that broke down. Jalen Wright also had 5 carries for 33 yards. So not a bad day on the ground for the Dolphins. But get this. I mean, if you combine Tyler Huntley, who got injured, and Tim Boyle, who came in for him, they were 15 of 26 through the air, right, for about 160 yards. Jalen Waddle, 1 grab for 11, and Tyreek Hill, who didn't even get targeted in the first half, first time in his career, 1 catch for 8 yards. So between the 2 studs, 2 catches for 19 yards. That is not going to get it done. Tua is looking to possibly return next week. So something definitely to monitor. The buy now window on the Dolphins could be over. So if you missed out your opportunity, I mean, maybe you'll still have a shot this week to trade for either Waddle or Tyreek Hill, but I don't know. If I mean, any experienced player wouldn't be trading those guys away now, unless they were a rebuilding team and they were looking to get rid of the points. So, but anybody else isn't going to just trade them away now that Tua is expected back. Jonnu Smith, though, he found the end zone 7 for 96. So Jonnu is a thing here. He was getting targeted from Tua, so he isn't going away quietly. Over to Indianapolis side of the ball, Anthony Richardson, man, 10 for 24. It's just not good news for their receivers. Michael Pittman somehow got 3 for 63. But Josh Downs, he's going to miss Joe Flacco. Josh Downs targeted 3 times, 1 catch, 3 yards. A.D. Mitchell got 2 for 30. Alec Pierce 2 for 15. But when you only have 10 completions, I mean, the only thing we're looking for here from the Colts offense without Jonathan Taylor is Anthony Richardson's rushing ability. He got 56 yards on 14 carries. No touchdowns, though. Tyler Goodson did get into the end zone on 51 yards, and Trey Sermon added 36 yards on the ground. But expect Jonathan Taylor to be back next week. Just watch the reports. They were looking good. He was possible, but they ruled him out on Saturday. He didn't practice on Friday, but this week it's looking like Taylor will return. All right. Just got a couple more games to get to. Got a good one here with the Lions traveling to Minnesota, and it was a breakout for Jahmyr Gibbs, who finally had his big game of the season. This Vikings defense is tough on the ground, but Jahmyr Gibbs didn't care. David Montgomery went down with a little bit of an ankle injury at one point in the first half there, and Gibbs just took over, had a 45-yard touchdown, added another touchdown later, so he finished with 116 on the ground, added 4 catches for 44 yards, so that makes for a 160-yard day for Gibbs. This is what we bought Jahmyr Gibbs for. I have him in a couple leagues, and I am very happy to see this. Amon-Ra added 8 catches for 112 through the air and got into the end zone. Khalif Raymond also got into the end zone, 3 for 39 and a touchdown. Not a good day for Jamison Williams. JAMO, just 1 grab for -4 yards. Jared Goff, though, solid day, 22 of 25, 88%. This guy is just so efficient. 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks through the air. David Montgomery like I said, he got hurt, but he came back and played, so nothing serious there for Montgomery, but it did end his touchdown streak at 8 games. Montgomery finished with 31 yards. Did add 39 through the air, I'll add, so 70 yards total for Monty. Oh, yeah. Sam Laporta, 1 for 25. Yikes. All right. Over to the Minnesota side of the ball. Sam Darnold, 22 of 27 for 259, a touchdown and a pick. Aaron Jones got 93 yards on the ground, opened the game up for Minnesota with a 34-yard touchdown. Darnold somehow added 39 yards on the ground. In the air there, Justin Jefferson doing his thing, 7 for 81 and a touchdown. Jordan Addison, 3 for 66, caught a nice long 51-yarder. Aaron Jones added 3 for 23. So he was over 100 yards in total offense. Jalen Naylor, don't leave him out, 4 for 76 yards. So if you need a pinch wide receiver, it's not a bad option. All right. We got 2 more games to get through. That was an exciting one. That one came down to the very end. The Lions were able to kick a field goal with just under 20 seconds to go, I think, to win that one. That one went back and forth all day. All right. We got 2 more games to get through. Let's get to 3 more games. Sorry. Let's get to the thumbnail and Mr. Saquon Barkley sticking it to his old team. Headed to the Meadowlands and just rumbled over the Giants defense, which had been looking good the last couple of weeks, but Sir Saquon said, 17 carries, 176 yards on the ground, multiple big carries. 55 yards was the long one. He had another one over 40. Kenny Gainwell even had 56 yards on the ground. Saquon got in the end zone once. Jalen Hurts, 7 for 22 and 2 touchdowns on the ground. So they just steamrolled the Giants. A.J. Brown did get a 41-yard touchdown. He had 5 grabs for 89 yards. Saquon added 2 catches for 11. So 187 total yards from scrimmage for Saquon. I think he showed the Giants their mistake. Jalen Hurts, all he had to do was 10 for 14 and 114 through the air. So not much going on there. Devontae Smith, catch for -2 yards. Ouch. All right. But Philly did what they had to do. I mean, they won the game 28-3, so you can't really blame them. All right. Over to the Giants side of the ball, and this was just another bad performance from Daniel Jones in Malik Neighbors' return. 14-21 for 99 yards for Daniel Jones. Drew Lock came in for him. Wasn't any better. 3 for 8 for 6 yards. Just, ugh. But, I mean, what are you going to do? Jones got sacked 7 times. So, I mean, this one was on the offensive line. Devin Singletary in his return to the lineup after the groin injury couldn't get it going. 5 carries for 18 yards, 1 catch for 3 through the air. Tyron Tracy, 6 for 23, so pretty much a 50-50 split there between him and Singletary. Tracy added 3 catches for 9. Wan'Dale Robinson, 9 targets, did actually out-target Neighbors. He had 9 targets, 6 for 23 through the air. So just an ugly, ugly day at the office for the New York Giants. Hopefully they can get things together on their offensive line. Let's talk about something else, please. Let's head over to London here, where the Jags made their home for the last 2 weeks, and Mr. Tank Bigsby showing up today. Whew. Breakout game for Tank. 26 for 118 on the ground, 2 touchdowns. Trevor Lawrence with an efficient 15 of 20, 193 yards and a touchdown. Touchdown went to Brian Thomas, who had another solid afternoon, or morning, I should say, afternoon in London, morning for us. 5 for 89, and the touchdown had a nice long 58-yarder as well. Evan Ingram showed up 5 for 35, so an okay day for him. Christian Kirk, though, only 1 for 24. Gabe Davis just 1 for 13. Over to the Patriots, Drake May still looking good here. 26 of 37, 276, 2 touchdowns, no picks for the rookie. Over 100 QB rating. So nothing wrong with May's performance. I mean, they didn't win the game, but May started off well, then couldn't really move the chains during the middle portion of the game. He added 18 yards on the ground. Really just couldn't get the running game going. I mean, what did they have here? 36, 40, 38 total rushing yards. So that doesn't help things. Hunter Henry is definitely a thing, though. 9 targets, 8 catches, 92 yards. He is loving Drake May. Jermichael Hasty, 5 catches for 49 yards and a touchdown. So it's not Antonio Gibson. It is Jermichael Hasty getting the catches out of the backfield for the Patriots. And so keep an eye on that going forward, because Antonio Gibson just had 1 catch for 9 yards, and Stevenson had 2 for 7, but Jermichael Hasty 5 for 49. Very interesting there. Ramondre Stevenson, as I said, they couldn't get the running game going there for the Patriots. 7 for 18 yards only. Let's get over to our final game of the week, and that was going way back to Thursday night. Can you folks remember Thursday night? Well, I don't think the Saints want to remember it, but if you're Bo Nix, you are liking it, because he came out of the Narlands Superdome with a victory, and he had a quietly efficient 16 of 26 for 164 yards, but did pick up 75 yards on the ground. Javonte Williams was the show. He had just a monster evening there. Let's bring up Javonte. All right, Javonte showing up. Now, most Javonte owners, unless they had to, probably had him on the bench. I know I did. But, I mean, that redraft league, I was able to pick him off of waivers because nobody wanted him. Now, that's a shallower format, but, man, 14 for 88, 2 touchdowns, 3 for 23 through the air for Javonte. He is back in business. Jaleel McLaughlin just 4 for 35 on the ground. Javonte added 3 for 23 through the air. Troy Franklin showing up now. He has that connection with Bo Nix, played together at Oregon. 6 targets, 5 for 50 through the air. Cortland Sutton, big donut, not even targeted once. So Troy Franklin is definitely stepping up here the last couple of weeks after not getting even a single target in the first few weeks of this year. So that is good news for the Denver Broncos. They just harassed Spencer Rattler all night. Rattler with an ugly 25 of 35 for 172 yards. Did not have a touchdown or a pick, but man, it was not pretty. And the New Orleans offensive line just couldn't keep the Denver D line away from Rattler all night long. 6 sacks for the Broncos defense. I mean, and they couldn't run the ball. Kendre Miller led the team in rushing, 6 for 36. Alvin Kamara, though, just 7 for 10 yards. Kamara had 6 grabs for 14 yards. So, I mean, just an ugly day for Kamara. Cedric Wilson, I don't know if you had him on your bingo card, but he did have 6 for 57 and a touchdown. I started Bubba Means in a league, and hey, he got me 3 for 37, which was ironically pretty much the same as Calvin Ridley. So that was my option. I started Bub Means or Calvin Ridley. I think Ridley got 3 for 42. So whatever. I was willing to take the shot on Bub Means with Rattler coming off of decent performance against Tampa and Rashid Shaheed going down for the season and Chris Olave being out as well. I figured, what the heck, take a shot on Bub Means, right? So I don't know what Bub's going to do going forward, but he is going to be one of the guys who should get some targets. Now, Rattler spread it around a little better this week. So you had 7 targets to Cedric Wilson, 9 targets to Tipton, the other rookie, and then Means had 5 targets. Juwan Johnson had 6 targets and then 7 dump-offs to Kamara. So it was pretty well spread around by Rattler. Again, though, his problem was the Denver defensive line, which is a great defensive line. They are playing amazing. They dominated my Buccaneers. I think that was a 26-3 ball game. So they are for real. That Denver defensive line, Patrick Surtain was out this week, and it did not matter. So that Denver D-line is legit. So watch out when your team is going, or when your quarterback especially is going against Denver's defense going forward. All right. Well, lots of surprises, lots of fun this week, week 7. I was glad to give you my recap. We are going to get into some dynasty trades later this week. When will we do that dynasty trade show? Maybe tomorrow, maybe it'll be Tuesday night. We'll see. But look forward to that. Again, check me out on my Patreon, patreon.com/Birdhouse Dynasty Show. If you've got a trade that you want me to review, go ahead and join the club there. It's just $3 a month, $1 a month for the chat forum if you want to just join that. If you've got any trade questions, just go ahead and ask me at buymeacoffee.com/Birdhouse Dynasty Show. Either way, you can join the Patreon. Then you've got unlimited questions, basically, you could ask. Or if you need something very specific, I check that Buy Me a Coffee all the time. So just shoot it on over there, and I'll get you answered real quick. But yeah, it was a real fun Sunday. Very surprising the way the Steelers manhandled the Jets. I was really looking forward to seeing the Jets offense and how they would perform. Am I shocked? No, because the Steelers defense is for real, and it's going to take a week or two for Rodgers to get back in the flow with Devontae and Garrett Wilson and Lazard and Mike Williams and, of course, my man Tyler Conklin. So anyway, that's all I've got for you today. Just a reminder, never stop working.